Dungeons and Dragons. We are talking Dungeons and Dragons today. Go ahead.
I didn't know you started. I see recording now.
We're going. We're going. Advanced Chat GPT prompts for Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Right. That's definitely what we're talking about today. I'm excited for it. I wore my shirt for Dungeons and Dragons.
Very appropriate.
With dice. My brother did not dress appropriately. I thought he was going to.
I got the formal shirt today. What was I thinking? Although I don't have a good dice shirt. You need to get me a dice shirt. I don't know why you need to get it for me, but...
Well, I do have several designs that I created for shirts. Have I not shared those with you?
Yes, actually you did. I want the Paladin one. That's the one I want.
Okay, I was going to say, what the freak, man?
Dude, we could sell those on the Tingenuity site, too. Anyway, now we're getting really off track. You just said that we'd devolve into natural conversation, and here we are.
Exactly. That's so true.
All right. But today, we have a focus, right? Because I had a video on my law firm YouTube channel that is my most popular video about how to use ChatGPT to play Dungeons & Dragons. That's what we're going to look at today, but this time together.
Yep. And I'm excited for it because we've both used the prompts. We both talked about refining these over the last couple of months, and I think they're at a great spot for communal use, I guess, be the stating. So we'll walk through a couple of use scenarios, and then for character creation, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're going to walk through character creation, and then we'll walk through some of the visual aspects of character creation, then jump into some Dungeon Master's prompts, because you don't really start out as a Dungeon Master. I mean, there are those rare individuals that all they do. Like myself, I mean, after the first time I played Dungeons and Dragons, that was what I wanted to do. That just really enthralls me, just creating the story. And also, one of the things that I do want to talk about, and I've thought about this as we have prepared for this, is that while the prompts are great, I think there's a lot to be said for your own imagination and your own ability to improvise and create story on the fly. And that will help you as a player and as a dungeon master. So, thoughts on that?
I agree. Like, I think I grew up, so you're 10 years older than I am. And so when I would play Dungeons and Dragons with my friends, you guys actually managed to actually play. Like, I think with my friends, we only ever managed to make characters. We never actually got around to playing the stinking game. It was only as an adult that I have played.
Honestly, some of the greatest play is creating the characters. I mean, because you imagine these characters doing these heroic things, and and then you get to play. Potentially you get to play that character. I have binders of characters
characters that you've made.
Not seen the light of day, or who have been the villains, or foils for the NPC. So
my kids, they go nuts about the backstory and everything. It's hilarious. But one of the things that I was going to say, one of the things I was going to say though about these prompts is that if you're looking to learn more about artificial intelligence and you think, well, Dungeons and Dragons, what a waste of time, right? First, I disagree, but second, I would say what a wonderful playground. What a wonderful playground to learn about how to use artificial intelligence. It's a low-stakes way to figure out this tool, see how it works. And as you'll see with these prompts, these are advanced ChatGPT prompts. They use Markdown format, and they get ChatGPT to do quite a lot. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, and that's what I love about it is, like you said, a low-stakes way of learning to use some of this AI, where there is no real wrong answer, and it's more on the imaginative scale. And then you can use these as a springboard to develop more complex professional prompts for your work.
Right. So this is the character generation prompt, and as you can see already, it is quite long, right? Like, it's not just I had a quick question and I thought I'd ask ChatGPT to do something for me. We're giving it specific instructions. We're telling it who you are, and then I want to talk briefly about this. This hashtag or number sign here is actually indicating to ChatGPT, I want you to do this in Markdown format. So we'll talk a lot about that. But I'm
Yeah.
giving it a very specific list of instructions. Anything you want to talk about as I scroll down here that you're noticing, Warren?
Well, that's what's great about this. If you, as a player and as a dungeon master, or even someone coming into this new, this is the character sheet. I mean, we've developed this based on all the stats and the things that you need to make that character. And so while this looks complex, it really isn't once you understand the basics of those particular features. So I think we've set that up really well with the markdown and the hashtags, and I'm excited to talk more about that to give our audience more in-depth insight into that. And great, you've got the character sheet. So the character sheet looks a little daunting, but when you start to see it develop out with this, you see that it's not as daunting as it is. Because honestly, when it comes down to it, Dungeons and Dragons, for me, is more about the storytelling, the communal storytelling aspect of it, rather than all the stats, all the numbers that are on there. Yes, they're important for, giving an element of randomness to it, but telling that story, being that hero in that fiction novel,
Right.
casting those magic spells, that's what's important. Because as you are well aware, when you remember those moments from games, it's not like, hey, do you remember when your character did XYZ? It's like,
No,
no,
remember
do you
when
remember
I
when
did this?
remember when you did XYZ, you lobbed the
Right.
fireball into the middle of all those goblins and they detonated, that's what it's really about.
It's pretty fun. Yeah, it's cool in that regard that it becomes this collective thing that you've shared. And then I started a game the month before the Dungeons and Dragons movie came out, and that's when I started playing with ChatGPT too, because it was growing in popularity. It had, I think, recently been released, and so I used these prompts to help my group kind of get started. A lot of them were new to the game, and as they've talked about, I've noticed that as well, that they're very much like, oh man, remember when this happened or when you did that? And it's all imaginary, but it's all really cool that everybody remembers it in this way. And so it's been fun. It's been fun.
Right. Well, I really loved your Las Cavas story. That was just fantastic. Everything that happens in Las Cavas stays in Las Cavas. That's just
That was the
hilarious.
backstory that one of my characters made up. That was awesome. His dwarven homeland in Las Cavas. All right. Well, let's go to this. So I wanted to show like what Warren was talking about. So character sheet for create a character name. If you go to the character sheet, you see that you've got a spot for a character name, right? Then we ask it to create a markdown table for level, class, background, race, alignment. Here we've got level and class, background, race, alignment, right? So this prompt is designed to help you fill out the sheet. And then the other thing that I would say is, go ahead.
And I think we should say, just preface it a little bit too. If you're a new player, if you're new to the game, this will really help you focus and understand a little bit better what those components mean. And so you don't have that fear of, am I doing this right? You can have this prompt and it just generates it for you. And then you just fill in the blanks, really.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go searching in the books. You don't need the books. It gives you a little effort to create that. So.
The other thing I want to point out is I mentioned Markdown, and if you go down to this markdownguide.org, it shows you the syntax, so you can understand what's happening here in the prompt. But this number sign
show that
here is-
again. So let's look at that again, because I think that's really important to show, what that means, and as you develop, or as our audience develops other prompts based on what we're showing here, they can see how these things are impacted. And having a good hierarchy in any kind of formatting document is pivotal to help us see and understand, what is the importance level of each of these aspects. When I'm designing something, that's a really important or vital part of design, is that hierarchy. What do we want that person to see first? What do we want them to see second, third, fourth? And showing that emphasis. So I think this is a great page to
Yeah, so markdownguide.org will help you understand this format. And if you're not familiar with like headings 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? That's more of like if you've done any kind of web or computer development, you're familiar with that. And also, frankly, if you've used like Microsoft Word, heading levels and those kinds of things. And literally, when we put this, it's heading level 1. Visually, it's going to appear bigger than a heading level 2, and you'll see that in a bit. And then these asterisks, two on either side, means that that's going to be in bold. So here in a bit, you're going to see it generate the output for this. So we've got heading 2 for these things. And like Warren said, that's going to create a visual hierarchy so that it's easy to see. Because if you just ask ChatGPT to make a character, it will make a character, right? It's going to do it. But in this way, we're actually going to get a very structured format, which we're going to look at in a bit. But I actually thought, hey, let's actually just ask it to make a character really quick.
Well,
so
that's,
that you see the comparison.
again, for our audience, that's important, is that specificity. If you specify what you want, you're going to get really specific information back.
Right?
Okay.
So I tell it to make me a character, and it's like, give me a bunch of information, right? It's like, go ahead, choose all this stuff, right? But now let's go back over to our prompt and see what, now I said, look, at the beginning, I said, only create the sheet when a user gives you the following prompt. Make a level. So all you have to do in our prompt is choose your level number, choose your race, choose your class. So, and then it says, great, give me that information. Make a level, let's go with a level 4.
Yeah.
Let's go with a half elf and cleric. What do you think?
Sure. I like cleric. Go for it.
Level 4 half elf cleric.
Give them, I was going to say, a Lara Moondew. Oh, sweet.
Morning Dew. Yeah, so you can see that it's creating the character. And again, we asked it to make the markdown table, right? So we're asking it to give us a table in markdown format, and that's why it gave us 2 tables. Whereas on this other example, all it did was say, oh, give me some information. We've already told it how we want it to do this. Now I'm going to copy this. You don't have to use the mid-journey description, but we think it's a really good idea to kind of make your game even more awesome. So I'm going to put this in mid-journey in the meantime while we continue to let the prompt run.
Well, I think what's important to note too is that you've specified, again, it goes back into the specificity. You said, I want a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons character. So you can tell it, I want a first advanced Dungeons and Dragons, second, third, 3.5, 3, 3.5, 4, and it's going to provide different results for that game. Or you can say Pathfinder or Starfinder or whatever, and it's going to go search for those particular things in its database.
Right, it's going to be able to find that stuff. Now, you can see in our prompt, we asked it to go all the way down the character sheet to create, personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, additional features of trait. But then we even ask it to make a character backstory, allies, and then...
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, I didn't realize you'd added that particular feature. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so we even get allies that fit within the D&D realm, and then a backstory written in the style of a New York Times bestselling author, right? Just for you, that's custom that you have for yourself and your adventure. And this isn't where the prompt ends, because for Magic users in particular, we haven't asked it to make a spell list. And so, we have a follow-up prompt that you can use for that. So let's just quickly throw that in here. And boom. So this character is also a Magic user. Please provide the following. And then again, use that markdown format, spells, create, fill in a 2-row markdown table, and then attacks and spellcasting. So earlier we asked it to create kind of an attack and spellcasting. You can see that it already did like those cantrip attacks, Sacred Flame and whatnot, but it's going to add, it's going to give you what you need for those Magic users, give you the spell information that you need as well.
And you can see the hierarchy here. You've got the heading, attacks and spells, and then you've got the H2 or H3 in the top column of that markdown table. And then we have each of those particular components. So you see clearly the hierarchy, and okay, this means this, and this helps you do this. Now,
we have one more player prompt that you can use that we've included in our set of prompts for players. And so I'm just going to put this here. because ChatGPT, a lot of people, when we see them or we introduce them to ChatGPT, they're like, "That's incredible," and then they use it. They're like, "Oh, I can't get it to work for me," right? And so,
Right.
what this prompt does is it, again, and Warren and I talk about this a lot, is you have to tell it what you want it to do, right? It's a
Right.
very good assistant. ChatGPT is an amazing assistant, but you have to give it clear instructions as if you were talking to a human. And so, all right, now that you've generated my character, I need you to be my assistant. When I give you a simple prompt like roll perception or make an attack, this is what I want you to do. And then give me the title for what's happening, right? Again, we're giving that visual hierarchy because it's going to be in bold when it prints that. And then it's going to go through all the steps of the action and state the result. It's going to do the math, add a one sentence narrative description that might help us if we're,
Yeah.
understand what's happening. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I think that's fantastic, to give a little flavor to the attack roll, because, as new players especially, they're a little more standoffish, a little shy about, what this can mean, where more veteran players are a little more flourished with their wording and how they describe that scenario, where it's like, oh, I cast X spell. Oh, that's boring. I lob the fireball into the mass of goblins. I've said that
Right.
before, but, or I, as my in-person game, I've got a person with an oath bow right now. And every time they attack, they're like, swift death to my enemies, and so it adds a little nuance to that particular trait.
Well, you know how I play a paladin, right? I'm always like, Misty Step, death, right?
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
it's my favorite. Anyway, I want to do a couple of things. First, I want to hop on over to Discord to show the output there.
Journey. Yeah.
So this is Alara Morning Dew. So this is art that's generated on Midjourney, and so these are the options that you have for her. And we're going to go ahead. I'm going to upscale version 3 just so we have a larger image we can look at. But
So funny.
the idea that you can quickly have something like this is pretty amazing. Go ahead.
This is just a stupid thing, but I've noticed that I use quadrant 3 most often.
Oh, yeah?
In Midjourney's quadrants. Yeah, if you go look at my stuff, that's the one I'm
You're
usually
always picking
selecting.
image 3?
Yeah. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just imagining that too. I mean, I'm using my imagination
Right.
for that, but it appears to me that I use that version more often than not.
Well, I wonder if there's something like in the algorithm, like it applies certain things, and like maybe you just have an affinity for whatever they've applied to, what's in box number 3. Anyway,
Maybe.
what's amazing
That probably
here,
is the case.
What's amazing here is there's custom art, right? That's created for you. When I was doing my Dungeons and Dragons game before the movie came out with my friends, some of them didn't realize until like we were almost done. They're like, "Wait, you didn't like find these images on the internet?" I'm like, "No, man, they are made." And so then I had a TV behind me during the game, and I would make them during the game. And they were like, "This is so cool."
Yeah.
And so it's so fascinating to be able to quickly and promptly make your character art. I want to go back here to...
Let's break
the
down
prompt.
some of that prompt too. I want to really talk about
okay.
that too, because that's important. I mean, you look at, people like to see that visual. It helps enhance the
Well,
nature of the
Let's
game.
look in two places. Let's look in two places to see why ChatGPT gave me that particular... Sorry, I'm having tech issues figuring out this eCam stuff.
Go right ahead.
But if we go up here, right? So another thing is, you don't need to use Midjourney if you're going to use ChatGPT in this way, but we find that it's really cool.
Yeah.
You
can use
really
any
neat things
number
going
of
on.
platforms for,
Right, you could use,
generating the art. But
Yeah. So what I've said is create a short physical description of the character's appearance, followed by, and then this is what is standardized. And I assume that that's what you want to talk about because that's the structure of the prompt.
Well, I want to talk about what it generated and then why certain aspects of the prompt are important. So go down to what it created, and so we can walk through that prompt, because we walked through a little bit of the ChatGPT prompt and why it did certain things. So here it defines who that is. So it's giving it tells you that it's an elven, has that determination, so she's going to have a certain look to her. It says kindness and serenity, so that was part of the nuance of her visual aspect. Gives the eye color, which it pulled from before, and so I think all of this is great. Now talk a little bit about
green eyes,
your
and then here
backdrop
it says
part.
emerald eyes. Yeah.
Right.
So then one of the things that I decided that I wanted to always have in the prompt was that wherever your character art is, the background should like go along with your character. And so I asked ChatGPT backdrop of, and then I put it in brackets. I want to show you this. Background of an appropriate setting for the character. And so it's deciding things about the character, and then it gives them the backdrop of a tranquil forest, right? Half elf cleric, backdrop. So that seems appropriate. And then cinematic lighting is going to make sure that we have lighting on one side of the person's face and kind of a little more dark on the other side. So it gives a more artistic feel to the portrait.
Right.
Because I also say portrait, so we know we're getting a good view of their face. It is a character portrait. And then I played with art styles for a while. When this was version 4, the original prompt that I created that we've been selling for a minute said photorealistic, but that was Midjourney version 4. And when it upgraded to version 5, then they were actually photorealistic. Whereas under version 4, they were very artistic, but not actually photorealistic. Now on version 5, they like look like pictures. And so some of the magic of the art style is gone. So just by changing it to Dungeons and Dragons art style in version 5, you still get kind of this artistic flow. And so that gets us to where we are now, where Midjourney was able to spit this out for us. And I think that looks like Elara Morningdew, right?
Exactly. And depending on the type of style that you want, you can insert an artist's name and it'll try to mimic that style. Or, like you said, photorealistic. If you want something a little more photorealistic, terms that you can put in there are like runway model to help give that that realistic look and feel to them. So,
well, you've done a lot more on Midjourney than I have. I'm excited to kind of see additional things that we put together.
Right.
I think the next thing we want to do is probably hop over to one of the Dungeon Master prompts, because those are all character. Oh no, I wanted to do one more thing on the character playing prompts.
Oh, well, let's play the character a bit.
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, help me play the character. So this is me. I'm Elara Morningdew. You're a Dungeon Master. Give me something, and then I'll tell my character to react in a certain way.
Yeah, so you've got the action there. Let's see what chat does with this. So,
all right. So what's something that I want my character to do? So let's say I'm Elara. We're going around. What's a scenario for her in Dungeons and Dragons where she'd have to roll something or take an action?
She's in the midst of a battlefield. She's in a battlefield. Sorry, what did you say? The last bit?
Like something for her to do, an action for her to take.
Oh, okay. So she's racing across the war-torn battlefield and hears the sound of a friend who's been injured on the other side of a hill or whatever, and she runs over there and cures him.
Okay. Well,
do you want something more like
No,
battle?
I need like... Well, so here's the thing. It says, now that you've generated my character, I need to be able to tell ChatGPT in response, roll perception, make an attack, do something like that.
Well, let's roll the perception.
A healing spell on my friend.
Well, no. First, let's roll a scenario, man. Do the scenario.
But you gave me a scenario. It says I cast Cure Wounds, 10 hit points healed. Result, you cast Cure Wounds. But give me another scenario.
So let's say she's in the midst of a battle, and a companion ally is 20 feet away, and arrows are incoming, and she casts Shield of Faith on them to deflect the arrows. So give it that nuance.
Let's see what it does. So it says, cast Shield of Faith. The spell grants them 2 bonus to their AC, which is accurate. You channel divine energy, invoke the power of Shield of Faith to protect your friend. A shimmering protective aura surrounds them, making it more difficult for arrows to find their mark. Your friend gains a +2 bonus to their armor class, making them better equipped to deflect incoming attacks. Your friend is now shielded by your magic, and they stand with added confidence on the battlefield. What's your next move? And so it's really cool to see it be able to do all of that.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say that I think is important for new users to ChatGPT is that ChatGPT is not going to remember all of this every time you log in. So what
That's
you
fair.
want to do is you want to copy and save out your characters so that you can paste it back in to ChatGPT if you want to use ChatGPT to play, so that you can do that, moving forward.
Well, I think, this first encounter with it, you can use it and you can understand the character, especially if you're new to the game. And then you copy and paste it into something, or fill out your own character sheet with the information that ChatGPT provided, and use that character as your starting point on the journey into Dungeons and Dragons, into your imagination, really.
Right. So I want to hop over to the Dungeon Master prompt, and we've got several Dungeon Master prompts. So we've got one for, I'll just show you here. We've got scenes, battles, random event generation, and player interactions. But I think for the sake of this video, we're just going to show you scenes. And then for the other prompts, you can check out my other video on my law firm's YouTube channel. But also, these prompts are available for sale, and we're putting them up on a site, tingenuity.ai. And what's cool about how we're doing it there is not only do you get access to these prompts, but as we tweak and refine them, you're going to continue to have access to them on the website. And then as we, continue to play around things, any new stuff that we come up with for how to play Dungeons and Dragons with ChatGPT, we'll be adding it to that, advanced ChatGPT prompts for Dungeons and Dragons. So it's something that you should look at signing up to, because I think that you'll enjoy the access and enjoy playing the game.
Well, I love the scene that we'll go through, and I remember us tinkering with this particular prompt and developing. Remember the trap? We'll create a trap, and then I was like, what are NPCs that we encounter? And I was like, no, they would be dead in that trap. And then it created this amazing narrative about them, the one elf crawling away from it. And, it's fantastic. So I'm excited to see what it's going to do here.
So as you'll see, right, so for each of the Dungeon Master prompts, it's got this paragraph here. Now, with custom instructions being a new thing, we've started to experiment with putting this paragraph in the custom instructions, something you might play with. But as you go down, it says, act as an expert Dungeon Master for a Dungeons & Dragons game and running. I have a group of 4 friends. They're playing first-level characters. You can customize it to the level, and it will make the enemies they encounter more difficult and the challenges they face more complex. It's been fascinating for me to see that. Help me create level-appropriate encounters for them. It generates amazing stuff. Write narrative in the style of a New York Times author. Only write when I ask you to write. And it's important to tell it that. Otherwise, it'll just go off and do whatever. When you write, the text should be formatted with Markdown. So again, we're making sure that it's visually clear. And then use headings. Okay. This is the scene generation prompt. Okay, so it says, I will need you to help me write narrative to move the story along. When I need you to do it, I will say scene info, and then I put it in brackets. Now, it's important that these brackets, you understand, this isn't part of Markdown. This isn't code. This is just a natural language instruction that you can give ChatGPT, and it knows what to do with it, which is awesome. So then I say, when I do, always give me the following information, and I tell it, hey, give me this Markdown format, a heading 1, title for the scene, a heading 2, a narrative description. So tell me what's going on. And then this is what Warren was talking about, non-player characters. It makes a list of NPCs, and he wanted to throw me for a loop when I had this prompt. He's like, well, will it create non-player characters if you're just in a dungeon somewhere? And it was so cool. It's all like the fantastic. Dwarf was clearly crawling away from the slime. It was so neat. All right. So give me a Dungeons & Dragons scene. Let's say that you're a Dungeon Master, Warren, and the characters decide to, I don't know, go somewhere. Give me a scene.
I'm going to say they're in the Underdark and they hear ominous clicking in the background.
Characters are in the Underdark and they hear ominous clicking in the background. I wonder what kinds of other NPCs are going to be there.
Hopefully Drow with their pet hook horror.
Okay, so you can see, I want to show off the formatting. This is heading 1, and this is heading 2, which is what the prompt says to do. Heading 1, heading 2. Let's
and
see
you
what
can
it
see
says.
it knows what the Underdark is. Not confused. It says a cavern in the Underdark.
Hinting at the presence of ancient unseen horrors as you press forward the echoing footsteps of your party. The only sounds. Oh, it only gives you one non-player character, Thaldrin, the Drow Scout. You were right.
Fantastic.
Now, it also gives you a mid-journey description for each of your NPCs, right?
Yep.
And so I'm going to go ahead and put this over here in mid-journey. We can look at it in a bit. But I'm impressed that it came up with that very, appropriate to the theme and setting.
Well, see, and that's because the large language model has been trained with so many different things. It understands that nuance of what would you encounter in the Underdark. Well, there would be specifically these types of entities: Drow, Surfneblin, Dweger, those kind of entities, and so it understands that.
You're going to lose the non-true nerds among us, Warren, if you keep going.
I know, but those that
This
that
is
do,
Thaldrin.
oh, love it.
I'm going to go with version 2. I like that one the best this time. But yeah,
It's not dark enough, but
this is what's so cool about it. So when I was doing the adventure with my friends, and then ChatGPT would create the mid-journey description, like let's say they were in a cavern tunnel or whatever, and then I'd say, quick, make me, this non-player character, and then I'd download the images, save them in a folder if they came back up again later in the adventure. So it allowed me to create an adventure in a world as we went along, and it was just, it was really cool.
And that's what's great about this, especially for Dungeon Master. So yeah, there's rarely a time where you're like, oh, your players, you've set out your scenario, you've got it prepared, and you're like, they can go 1, 2, or 3 scenarios because it's impossible for us to give a full real world experience. Plan for every instance of things. So this gives an opportunity. So if you're kind of fresh out of ideas, you can get on your laptop and create something really quick, and it's going to just generate it, and you can then use that for future experiences. And if you've trained it with your particular style, you're going to get those typical results as well, and you don't have to worry about as much.
I want to use a scene that's a little more typical. Like, obviously, I don't think this is atypical, but I want to highlight how it shows the non-player characters and how you can move a story along with because when I was playing the game with my friends, we'd come into a tavern, and then it would come up with 3 or 4 NPCs, and then the story hooks were fascinating because it started to tie things in from the story. Like, I could add a lot to the scene info, like the players enter a tavern bar, seeking for clues about the Emberstone. What?
The cliches of a tavern.
All right. So the Emberstone Inn, right? And then. So it kind of
took your Emberstone.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Made it a bit much.
But the Innkeeper's great.
Silas the Mysterious Bard. And then it gives us story hooks. So we can inquire at the bar, we can approach Silas, or we can gather information from the locals. Now, I can also say, I wanted more NPCs. Give me 5 more NPCs the players could interact with.
Right.
Now,
I hope one of them's a bar wench. The barmaid.
The gossiping barmaid. There she is.
The gossiping. She's the first thing they went to. It's fantastic.
Alara is a plump, cheerful barmaid with a penchant for storytelling. Then we've got Thrain, the brooding dwarf, Elena, the shady merchant, Galen, the town guard, and Rosalind, the curious scholar. When I played with my friends, it was so cool to go into a bar, have it create people, and then we also met the city guard, and so then it created on the fly a sergeant, a captain, and a detective. And it was just fascinating to see it, create story elements and actually deepen the story on the fly. Again, you can take any of these people and you could throw them into Midjourney. So it's just really cool how that works.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how this tool, again, AI is a tool that we can use to augment our work and our play.
Yeah. Well, and like we said at the beginning, this is a great way to learn how to use it. I think the prompts
Yeah.
are a good example of how you can break down a complex prompt. And particularly with, and I know I mentioned this to you from the beginning, but so using AI for law, because I'm a lawyer, is particularly with the advanced data analysis tool that's available, that you can upload documents and have it read them and combine and synthesize information. You need a prompt like this that breaks it down. A lot of people that are using ChatGPT are still like, oh, do this one thing, do this other thing. But if you, and we're going to show this on our channel and also on our website and have prompts available for sale for some of these more complex things, where it's actually really important to have structure in the prompt you give it so that you get really
Right.
great output.
Again, specificity and structure are vital to making that prompt really actuate and provide good responses.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing this with me and with everybody that I hope sees this. And again, don't forget, visit us at tingenuity.ai, where we're going to have access to this prompt. Well,
Link
all of the
below.
prompts available here. Do what? Yeah, there's going to be a link
I said
below.
link below, right?
There's going to be a link below. And then also, we're going to be adding additional prompts in the future, both here on our channel, where we'll be talking about using AI, but also on that website, where you'll be able to purchase access to additional prompts, additional use cases beyond Dungeons and Dragons. We've been using artificial intelligence. I've been using it a lot just to write letters and also to help me with legal briefs. I know that you've been using it a lot in marketing.
Yep. Social posts for understanding marketing plans better, providing strategy and planning documents. So there's
But
a lot
you've
of
been doing more than
applications.
that too, though. Like, so that's ChatGPT, but also like just on the Midjourney side, creating a lot of
Oh,
cool
for
graphic
sure.
stuff that I did not know was possible.
Oh, yeah. The buildings for rezoning projects, concepts for hotels and zoos, and all sorts of different things. I mean, it's fantastic and crazy.
Yeah, so that was one of the things Warren did. He showed me concepts for hotels, and I was like, "That'd look really cool with a mystical tree in it." So then I like borrowed some of his Midjourney prompts and made this epic elven castle. Anyway,
Yeah.
enough
Turned
about
out pretty
Dungeons
good.
and Dragons, Midjourney. But yeah, come back. We will be posting regular content, and we will be providing these prompts for you. Again, visit us at Tingenuity AI. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and thanks for hopping on, bro. This is always fun.
Thank you. Always fun. Talk to you later.
All right.